I were to call your mother a prostitute, or your partner, or your kid, how would you feel about that?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Welcome back to the Gabriel Speaks Show, everyone. I'm so glad you tuned back in. We're going to go over some of the most recent updates in the UFO, UAP kind of craziness phenomena field. We're going to cover a few topics that have happened recently. We had the Contact in the Desert this last weekend, some really cool interviews with some of the folks that were there. We have some updates on the Buga sphere and what is actually inside of the Buga sphere, or what they're theorizing is inside of the Buga sphere. It's pretty fascinating. There's some new videos of, I guess, additional spheres in Brazil, which looks kind of crazy. Lou Elizondo, who is now part of the UAP Disclosure Fund, yet another fund that Lou is a part of, had a panel discussion with Eric Davis, Representative Luna, Representative Burleson was there, and some pretty interesting things came out of Eric Davis's mouth. Well, a lot of things came out of Eric Davis's mouth. You'll see here in just a moment, but a couple of them are actually pretty shocking. We're going to get into Representative Burleson's reaction to what Eric Davis told him, and we're also going to get into some more stuff with Ashton Forbes and his take on the MH370 video and how debunkers are just all haters. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more updates like this. Stay tuned and we're going to get right into it. So there was the new orbs that were recorded. Well, I guess it's just one, just with multiple angles in Colombia. I'm going to present after this video here what I think is flying around in that orb. But first, let's take a look at this analyzation of the orb. We're going to look at some close-up video of the orb, and then they're going to give us a scientific breakdown of what they think they're seeing inside of it. Check this out.
Sobre todo porque estamos hablando de nanotecnología.
¿Esta prueba no se puede discutir?
No, Jaime, aquí tenemos elementos suficientes en donde hay tecnología muy avanzada.
Es decir, lo que estamos viendo aquí en la pantalla es lo que se está viendo directamente con la cámara, el microscopio digital en la esfera. 1000 aumentos.
Es fascinante encontrarte esto en uno de los puntos negros. Reflejó era que había un polímero. Y mira ahorita
Y el polímero tiene insertas la fibra óptica.
Y ahí está.
Múltiples fibras ópticas. Múltiples fibras ópticas.
Son varias, Jaime. Y ahí podemos...
Primero, esa presencia de fibras, primero revelan que hay tecnología ahí, y es incuestionable. Ahora, según el experto, que consultó con un experto de fibras, esta fibra se utiliza como sensor para eventos en la atmósfera, humedad, temperatura, por ejemplo, presión, todo esto. Entonces, si es para la atmósfera, entonces estos sensores están puestos para un dispositivo que tiene que estar en la atmósfera.
Toda esa información la está transmitiendo.
La está transmitiendo.
¿Sí? Por eso nosotros detectamos aquí una radio.
Cada bolita que tú ves es una fibra óptica.
Esta no es una óptica típica. Aquí tienes un polímero, que es la que recubre, y aquí está la parte de la fibra óptica. ¿Ok? Yo le hice análisis químico a esta parte para ver qué es la fibra óptica. Tienes óxido de silicio. Óxido de silicio con algún dopante. Entonces se le hizo análisis químico aquí, donde no hay fibra óptica.
Aquí es una microimagen que se tomó de una muestra de uno de los puntos del ecuador de la esfera, que curiosamente ese punto casi atraviesa toda la carcasa. Lo que ves de fondo es la ciencia dice que esto es baquelita, parece ser baquelita. Cada punto negro
parece ser más.
O sea, ¿este tiene más fibra óptica que el otro?
Sí, definitivamente.
¿Y por qué sería esto?
Pero
Una de las cosas es
Jaime, al tener más fibra óptica quiere decir que están sensando más características en el.
I know that Jaime guy has been involved with multiple BS kind of scams. I think I read an article that said something over 400 false claims that they've been able to debunk on Jaime. We've all heard the saying, even a broken clock is right twice a day. Did Jaime stumble across something that's actually legitimate here? I really don't know, but I started digging a little bit into what this could potentially be. And I found that 13 years ago, there is very similar technology as far as circular drones. Take a look at this video. Let me know if you think this technology could be involved here. You tell me in the comments, is that orb technology? If you think about 13 years ago, they were able to do that. Add 13 years of advancement and design enhancements. You could, to me, it seems, I'm not an expert, but it seems you could certainly put what appears to be a metal or shiny coating around the outside of it, make sure it's getting some ventilation. And I think that could definitely explain the video of it hovering. Now, what's inside, if that's legitimate, the fiber optics, that's really fascinating. The message on the outside of the orb, it has been interpreted. It has been interpreted. I'll throw it up here. This is the message. It's very kind of confusing. The message itself makes me doubt the whole thing, because what they're saying essentially in the science is that these things are some kind of sensor. I don't really know. They believe the fiber optics are sensing environmental changes and shifts in the atmosphere, and I think we're just kind of in a hold pattern until we hear more about that. So, is it real? Is it fake? I don't know, but I do find it very interesting, especially if we can prove out the fiber optics inside of it. Is this some kind of alien thing? Is it some hidden civilization probing our environment? There's just so many places where your mind wanders. Super fascinating topic. We've kind of talked about, well, we have talked about Lou quite a bit on this show. Elizondo, his motives, what's his long game? Can we trust him? Those kinds of things. Elizondo has been a part of multiple groups surrounding UAP disclosure or UAP contracting. You can just see it here on the timeline I've made up here. It's kind of crazy, all the different organizations he's been a part of just since separating in 2017. This footage here is of a hearing, a meeting, I guess a luncheon maybe, of the UAP Disclosure Fund, where he had Representative Luna and Representative Burleson. Basically, Eric Davis kind of goes off the rails here and just goes and talks for hours and hours about really nothing. Again, like we talked about how put off being on Rogan, how cool that was, but essentially it was 3 hours of nothing new. The same rehashed, recycled stuff. Maybe they've repackaged it, tried to make it a little sexier, but it's just the same stuff. It's the same stuff we've all heard, and nothing really shocking. The most shocking part comes at the end when he talks to Representative Burleson about the beings. So let's check out Lou, who's, I guess, new. project here is Eric Davis, I don't know, and the UAP Disclosure Fund, although it appears that he has stepped down from that, so it's a little confusing, like most things with Lou. Check it out.
This committee and the esteemed members of Congress and the American public would love to hear, to the degree you're able to discuss it, the direct access you had. For those who don't know, Dr. Davis was, and I'll let him answer this, it was submitted into the matter of record for Congress a couple of years ago. The Wilson Davis memo. It was alleged that he was the author of it. And if you don't know what that is, I encourage you to look it up. It has been entered as a matter of public record in the congressional record, and it is extremely significant. This is the man.
Thank you, Lou. I'm an astrophysicist and also what Mark Meltz at NASA and I call the breakthrough propulsion physicist. And I began my work in UFOs or UAP starting in 1996 when Robert Bigelow hired me and worked for him as his director of aerospace physics and astrophysics missions, and former CIA national intelligence officers, social psychologists, medical doctors, and Carl Sagan and Ron Page co-authored a book called UFOs: A Scientific Debate, which was published by the AAAS Press. The AAAS is the American, from a scientific data standpoint, data that was collected, data that was analyzed, and so they presented it publicly. For a desire to transform my worldview, it opened up my worldview to a lot more possibilities. And when I was 2.5 decades working for Bigelow, working for the Air Force Research Lab, working for Hal Cutoff at Earth International, worked at, and the UAP task force that Jay Stratton led at the Office of Naval Intelligence. And so, long story short, is that I came into contact with industry leaders, technical scientists, and so I've been exposed to so much in the classified world that I can tell you definitively the most sensitive of their programs that they've ever had. These programs are even more sensitive than one of the most well-hidden programs. It is hidden for congressional oversight and always has been. And it was hidden by the action of President Eisenhower, who instituted. What happens is the Department of Defense offices, CIA offices, they create shell companies, they give a sole source contract to that's the king. And Rob Blumenthal asked me this for an interview I gave them in July of 2020, which were a number of individuals as a follower. The craft that have been recovered are not in the serve. They're not made by human cameras. They are not. Physicists like me and Avi, we cannot answer questions like motive. We just need to take data. We call it measurements and signals intelligence and intelligence as well. And there are other groups out there building up their own sensor suite.
Yeah. So again, nothing that like, it's just all stuff we've all heard Eric Davis say before. And it's so painful to watch. I had to fast forward it for you all because it's all nonsense. It's just all stories that we've heard before. This person told that person told this person. It's a secret. It's classified. I can only tell you so much, blah, 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 blah. Just painful. And you can see Luna, like literally her patience just begins to kind of run out because there's nothing new. And at the end here, she's like, okay, well, yeah, maybe we can get in a skiff and you can actually tell me something I haven't already heard like 5,000 times from multiple sources. What we need is new stuff. We need new evidence, disclosure, new documents, something. Eric, give us something.
With that said, before we go on, I wanted to thank real quick Rep. Nick Baggett for, how do you pronounce your name, sir? I apologize. Baggage. Okay, forgive me. Baggage. Rep. Nick Baggage, who arrived here just not too long ago. So thank you, sir, very much. From Alabama. Rep from
Alaska.
Oh, Alaska.
He's like the hub for this stuff.
Sir, my humble apologies. Obviously, I'm going to blame my dyslexia instead of whoever wrote this for me. So.
Oh my God, Lou. Rep Bigot from Alial, and then blame it on the guy taking the notes or dyslexia. Never heard you were dyslexic before, but whatever. I'm sorry. I know that's just a little thing I should let go, but it just, again, it goes to this credibility. He's not even prepared for a hearing or, well, a pretend hearing, but you actually have representatives from Congress there. You're not prepared for this. It's just, come on, buddy.
The materials are in the periodic tables. They're either radioactive isotopes that we already know of, or they're any of the other non-radioactive, non-actinide elements on the table. It's just the combination of the materials is unusual. Leadership was a young material scientist when he graduated with his doctorate in material science from one of the university, so basically, this is what he was telling me. He's an advanced material scientist, and he said, well, we could use the best diagnostic equipment he had back in those days, which was 60s. But when we look at how they're composed and structured, it's like nothing we've been able to fabricate on Earth. We've never been able to produce on Earth. And we have no extrapolated engineering or physics technology.
So thank you for you guys coming today. I have to get going, but I am charging Burleson and Burchett to be here and continue on while I am not here. But I will say that, I mean, the stuff that you guys have all told us today, mind-blowing. And I think, you know, going on record is even more important. So we are going to invite you back to also testify at some point. But I do have to head out. So thank you so much for your time setting us up, and we'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's about as nice and respectful of an exit as Luna can give right there. Because I think really in her mind, she was thinking, this is bullshit. This is the same bullshit I've heard since I've been breaching this topic. And you're not telling me anything new. So I'm out of here. If you want to talk in a skiff and tell me something new, I'm prepared for that. And just like this last, couple of weeks ago, she had Grush, Lou, and oh my gosh, it was somebody else that totally flaked on her when she had a meeting prepared in a skiff. They all got sick at the same time. I mean, what kind of game are we playing here, y'all? Do you want disclosure, or are you trying to just bank in on disclosure? And I think the latter may be true here. Now, after Luna leaves is when Eric Davis discloses this being thing to Representative Burleson. Let's watch that.
Do you have, or can you comment on whatever species have been piloting these craft? How are they large? Are they multiple species? Are they multiple species? Are they what was their size? How many are usually on a craft?
They're typically the multiple species. People are familiar with the Greys, the Nordics. People have talked about reptilians and insectoids. It's not that they're reptilian or insectoid, it's that they resemble to the Pacific a reptile or insect type humanoid, because they have a head and forelimbs and torso. So
large, small,
human size, human scale.
And are there how many are a crew?
Well, the Greys I'm familiar with from investigating the crash at Corona, which is misnamed the crash of Roswell. It's not the crash of Roswell, it's the crash of Corona in Mexico. Those were Greys, those are 4 foot tall. And the Nordics are typically human size, probably, I've heard 5-6 feet tall. And same with the people who mislabel reptilian and insectoid, they're roughly that height too. I haven't heard anything about anything 7 or 8 feet or 9 foot tall.
So here's the thing, when pressed about, did you actually see these things yourself? Of course, the answer is no. This is all hearsay. This is, trust me, bro. I heard this from a guy who heard this from a guy. We hit, again, that same roadblock where it becomes hearsay, and then it's, how can you prove that? You can't. So very interesting. Now, I caught Representative Burleson's reaction kind of after he had some time to think about this on the Tim Pool podcast. Go ahead and let's watch what Burleson has to say in reaction to Eric Davis's comments about these species.
That was not what I expected him to say. But yeah, he said.
So who is this guy?
This is Eric Davis. Has been involved in the intelligence community since the 80s, right? So he's
for a long time.
For a long time, and he first worked for Bigelow Aerospace, and then he went on to get work for the Pentagon, and then CIA, and basically researching what they describe as crashed material. Now, whenever I pressed him and asked him, at least in that setting, he did not say that he personally has seen these, right? But he described the 4 different types of aliens: the Greys, the Nordics, the insectoids, and the reptilians that are commonly referred to in the UFO community. It would not just blend into the population.
No.
And that's, at least, and I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying that's what I've been told.
What if they're just people from the future?
I think that's an interesting thought experiment, right? That what we're experiencing are future generations of humans who have mastered time travel And if you master time travel today, wouldn't you want to go back and see what was going on? Very first hearing, the witness, the big whistleblower, David Grush, in his report that he gave to us, and I read it beforehand, and that struck me the most out of his report, was that he said, one of the theories is that what we're experiencing is, aliens are interdimensional.
Like when they say non-human entities or biologics, do you think we have in our possession?
I definitely think there was a crash retrieval program. What they picked up, whether it was, adversaries or us, our military experimental stuff. What one of the recent whistleblowers that came out, Jake Barber, said that he was part of the crash retrieval program, and that 95% of what they picked up was clearly, just either drones or whatever.
Right.
But then they had a few incidents where they picked up something that he said was non-human intelligence. But what I will say is, in my pursuit in trying to get to the bottom of all this, I've yet to have anybody show me anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to look, I think that people can have their personal perspective, and if they want to testify, I'm not doubting that anybody's wrong. I'm just saying, you can say that you had that experience and that you saw that, but I didn't, and I'm not going to just believe it.
This is the crossroad that I think anyone covering this field and this area, this is a crossroads that, if we're honest with ourselves, I think we all get to. This is why I fell more on the John Mack side of things instead of the David Jacobs side of things when it comes to the whole abduction kind of phenomena and argument. You can't tell someone that what they're experiencing isn't real. The other side of that is, until you experience it, you can't really say that it's a fact. It's someone else's experience, and we're going to assume positive intent and that they're sharing this because they think it's important. It's real to them. But we have to be honest about what that means for us, and does that make it real to us? It's a difficult question that we all get to, because in this field, so much of what we hear is hearsay and not backed by any real government agencies. You have spooks out there that will talk about kind of crazy phenomena, but leave out the most important specifics that we would need to track down the facts. And this, being at that crossroads, this is where you start seeing, like, there's some people that really want disclosure and that really want the truth out there and really want to understand what all of this means for us as a species. At the same time, there's an entire group of folks out there, their whole goal is to cash in on this and benefit from this. And it's something we all need to be wary of when we're deciding who we're going to go to for information, who we're going to trust with this information. For instance, the new Reddit information that came out talking about, was Lou Elizondo the one feeding Jeremy Corbell all this stuff to begin with? If that's the case, it just makes this circle even smaller and kind of gives you a different perspective on what we're seeing here. Is this just a big psyop? So, like many folks have said, Lou can make a big play, get this contract, and turn it into some huge money? Or does he really want disclosure? I don't know. I would love to have Lou come on and share what the deal is. We're working with my associate, Ryan's Pointing at Failure, and I are working with getting Jeremy McGowan on and sharing and talking about his story and his experience in the article he wrote on Medium, which is just a fascinating read. If you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to do so. Ashton Forbes, we've talked about him a few times. It was on a recent podcast with Tim Pool. Ashton is backing up once again, his story that he believes these videos are 100% real according to his contacts, and they're using this advanced technology, Gorgon stare or something, where they can use all these different satellites and sensors to recreate data. Honestly, this video's been debunked so many times. It's just crazy to see him have the audience that he has still believing what they're seeing. To me, it's not real. And what is really a shame is he says here, like, well, sorry all those civilians had to die, but that's the cost for our defense here in the United States, stating that we did some mission and this was us disappearing a plane to show China not to mess with us and not to try to spy on us and get this new technology that we have. It's so far out there that I don't have an educated response to it because I just feel like I'm going to let it speak for itself. Check this out.
You've been tracking, you've had this video that you've been analyzing for some time. You've been putting out information that you believe this is, the video that we're getting is some kind of government's, what is it, infrared technology for video or something? Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so I've been exposing the MH370 videos. I don't know if you can share what I show here. I'll show the screen, but these MH370 videos, the biggest revelation that has come along recently is that this is Gorgon Stare, Air Force's Gorgon Stare technology in one of these videos that people think is fake. They think it's, I don't know, whatever, Unreal Engine, Arma 3, Call of Duty, or whatever. And it's not any of those things. Those MH370 videos are real leaked military footage. The big revelation was finding out is Gorgon Stare wide area motion imagery. That's why we see the video move around. And that's why we're seeing it in a low frame rate. That's why we see the coordinates in the bottom left update in a higher frame rate than what we see the actual background move around in. And I had multiple sources confirm to me that the video is actually Gorgon Stare. So anyone that doesn't think so, I mean, it's simple to confirm it. All you have to do is just talk to somebody in the Air Force and they can confirm that that's legitimate.
So this is a video of, this is research you've had going back to MH370. Were you doing this research before those videos came out?
No, that was responsible. The people responsible for MH370 is China. China was trying to steal our technology, and the CIA in the United States said that's not going to happen. And you say, well, that's kind of crazy. They would target a civilian airliner for something like that. Well, welcome to the price that it takes to keep us safe in America. Between the 90s and 2000s, they figured out that plasma can become stabilized under the right conditions. And they looked at the Russian hypersonic, the Ajax and the scramjet designs, and they figured out something called perfect propulsion.
Someone in the comments tell me what perfect propulsion is. Not familiar with the term. Don't know what it means scientifically. If somebody could clue me in down in the comments, I'd certainly appreciate that. That comment Ashton Forbes made about that's the cost people pay for our security, like he knows of this super secret inside intelligence operation and it's something he knows somehow, but that the rest of us don't know. That's when my flags start bing, 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 bing. Like there's just no way. Who are you, Ashton? Why do you even have a journalism pass? Did you go to school for journalism? Did you go to school for physics or any major in any type of scientific study? I'm just curious because when showed the debunking video and challenged with it, instead of having an open, receptive reaction and debating the facts, he gets very defensive and starts calling names and saying things like, my butthole looks like your butthole. Doesn't sound very scientific to me, Ashton. We covered a few interesting topics. I want to take us back here to a kind of shocking thing that Elizondo did during an interview. And this video really opened my eyes and got me to start looking down this rabbit hole of really who is Lou Elizondo and how come we all sort of trust him all of a sudden about this topic and what are his interests? Really, what are his interests? Check out this video. This is pretty wild.
Why should we be cautious and estimate them as a potential threat when researching this?
We had him a former special agent and a special agent in charge. When someone has been taken, do you have any kids? You might ask you, Rob.
I do, yeah, I have 2 kids.
Okay, so let's say your kids want to go to the mall, they jump in an Uber, but instead of being taken to the mall, they're taken to the Uber driver's house. And then, God forbid, someone touches a loved one without their permission. Well,
It seemed to kind of stoke fires of division rather than, uniting people. And, frankly, I found that a little disappointing if that account really was yours.
If I may, rather, if I called your mother a hooker, how would you? And I'm being honest. I'm not saying that. I'm asking you hypothetically, if I were to call your mother a prostitute, or your partner, or your kid, how would you feel about that?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Exactly. What the fuck are you talking about? Now, that is something you do to throw people off. In both of those instances, the first question was, Lou, you keep saying these things are a threat, but there's not really many instances of them causing, harm to people. Well, what if somebody kidnapped your kid and touched them? Huh? The second question was, Lou, are you out there kind of stoking fires in UFO Twitter? It feels like you're, kind of being combative in some of these interactions. Lou gets challenged. The reaction is, you got any kids? What if something happened to your, what if I called your wife a prostitute or your kids? Lou, what the fuck? Y'all, if you don't think that's messed up, you could unsubscribe to me right now because that is jacked up. These are folks trying to ask questions about disclosure and challenge Lou with some challenging questions. And the response is to put you on the defensive and make you weary and afraid. That's some bullshit, y'all, from someone we're supposed to trust. And if you read that Jeremy McGowan article, I believe if you have a high opinion of Lou, it may change that opinion. And again, we're working hard to get Jeremy McGowan on here, not just to talk about that, but also to talk about some of the really cool stuff he actually is involved with now, that actually is trying to work towards disclosure and discover things. So look for that in the future. I appreciate you all tuning in for another episode of the Gabriel Speaks Show. We'll be back soon with another episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Hit the little bell for alerts. Have a great rest of your day, y'all.